Hi guys, how are you doing? Good, I hope. I'm sorry if I have difficulty putting sentences together in this video. Um, I had all my stuff down here for recording. This is the basement. So this house that I'm in right now it's really great because the basement had been finished and I actually got access to this basement. And I convinced them to leave some of the furniture behind for me, the owners of the house. So I got this furniture down here. I can use the basement because I don't know if you noticed, but this week I've been going from different rooms and doing the videos in different rooms to kind of change it up a bit. So I had everything set up down here to do videos, and then my son got sick. So my poor little guy, although I say little, I think he's the same height as me now. He got like violently ill Thursday. What? I don't even know what day. Today is Saturday. Right? Yeah. Today is Saturday. He got violently ill Thursday evening. Oh my God. I can't. I'm traumatized by it actually. He threw up everywhere. It's been a long time since he's been like sick to his stomach. It's been so long actually that the last time he was still like a little kid, and now he's almost 13. So it was nasty. Anyways, and then he just threw up and went into a raging fever. And anyways, he's getting a lot better, but of course, being his mom, no matter how many times you've been through them being sick, you're constantly, are you okay? Do you need this? Do you need that? And then, so I didn't sleep very well Thursday. Actually, I don't know that I slept at all. I think I was in and out of weird dreams and listening for him. But anyways, so and today's been more like a nursing him and trying. Anyways, so if I don't formulate sentences correctly, that's why I'm a little bit tired. I actually was able to take a 2-hour nap today. I thought I was coming down with it. I felt so horrible, but then I realized I'm just like exhausted. So I felt a lot better after I slept. But so yeah, I haven't done any. I didn't do any readings today. I don't know when this will come out. There's no reason to hold it. Like I usually have my stuff come out at a set time or whatever when I'm doing the tarot cards. Yeah, it's probably come out maybe tonight, I guess, after I finish editing it. I just thought it would make an interesting conversation. And, yeah, because there's a few things about this conversation where it will go that are quite different. So, you know, if you've been on my channel for a while and you've seen some of the other videos that I've done about things like astral projection and the Mandela effect and other sort of like supernatural things. So astral projection is something that has always been a big part of my life. The first memory I actually have is of like kind of seeing myself in a crib in a yellow room crying. And I don't remember what age I was when I kind of mentioned it to my mom, and she said there was no way you could know that because you would have only, I don't know how, like maybe, I don't know, a year and a half or something like that. And I said, but you don't understand, Mom, I didn't see myself in the crib, like from the crib. I was above the crib looking at myself. And anyways, I don't want to get into all, maybe at the end, if y'all are interested in at the end, I'll save it to the end and tell you my astral projection stories. But so I just saw something on YouTube, and it inspired me. It was just like it was a video shorts that someone had done, and they had looked at a Google Street View of a home. I don't remember the year. And there's people standing outside, and, you know, Google blurred their faces, and they're, you know, it looked like they were just casual friends, and they're hanging out on the porch and walking by and watching the Google car go by. 2 years later, the house was just like a wreck, like a real wreck. And then I think 2 years after that, it was gone. It was just gone. And then present, it's just a field. So it's just fascinating. And so then I guess they sort of challenged people. They said, well, your childhood home or a place that was special to you that you haven't been to in a long time. Google map it. What does it look like now? And I thought, that's great. Oh, I'll go take a look. Because the last time I looked, I don't know, was maybe 4 years ago, the last time I took a peek. And I had actually been down there quite a few years prior to that because of something that I was trying to do with a time capsule that had been buried, and that's another story. But so I'd seen the house, and it's the one place too that I had recently talked about was my childhood home. Is the only place it's the one place I've lived the longest my entire life, because I've moved so many times my whole life. But y'all make me feel better because you've moved so much more than I have. But I had lived there for 10 years straight. I had lived there. And it's some of like the best memories that I had, because I was there from like grade 2 until my first 2 years of high school. So it's like those really formative years when you know, I don't know. So anyways, I Google mapped it. And so I'm going to edit this video too. And this is what it looks like today. Yeah, the one that's rubble. The rubble, it's gone. I'm feeling like to go there and expect to see your childhood home, and that's what you see. It's friggin' gone. So when I zoomed in, I'm like, all those bricks, those blocks. Come here, baby Lily. Come on, good girl. Come on, you're my good girl. Mwah. Yeah. Yeah, we're just doing a talk video. Yeah, you've been a good support mechanism during the sickness. You have been. You're a really good girl. She's very good when someone is sick in the house. She is such a sweetheart. She's laying on my son's bed, making sure he's okay. Yes, and then when I've been sick, you lay with me. You are a good girl that way. You are such a good girl. You are a gift to us, aren't you? You are. Yeah, I know. I know you think I'm talking to myself, Lily, but the camera's right there. So anyways, my childhood home is gone. It's gone. The other really weird thing is there were no trees on the front lawn when I was there. I sent like my mom a message. I said, oh my God, Mom, this is what the house looks like. And so she said the same thing to me. She said, can you believe how big that willow tree is in the front yard? Because the tree was not there when we moved. She's like, I know. So we moved. Okay. I failed grade 2. How old was I when we moved from there? I don't know. Let's say I was 16. Maybe 17. I don't know. It's like 32, 34 years ago. There was no trees in the front yard. Again, you can take another look. That's how much those trees grew. Period of time. To even think, right, that you've lived somewhere and been gone that long, the trees got that big. You were gone. So anyways, that was sad. It was really sad for me. It was a tiny little house, as you could probably see by the size of the lot. It was a deep lot though. It goes way back there, and it goes down like a tier. It elevates down. There was a big garage behind the house. It looked like an old barn. It's gone. The house was, I think the house was 70 or 80 years old when we moved into it. So it was well over 100 years. I don't know how they got away with knocking it down, but anyways. So it's gone. So here's the thing. So this is where we go back into the astral projection part of this. So throughout my entire life, I, on a very regular basis, well, let's call it semi-regular, have very vivid dreams that take place inside that house. Well, that used to be that house. And one of the things with me and my dream, because it's very hard for me to tell the difference between an astral projection experience and a dream, unless I happen to be very consciously aware at the point where astral projection is about to take place, or I've just hopped back in, which has happened sometimes, and I'll get into the details of that as well at the end of this video if you're interested in that. But there's a lot of times it takes place and I don't experience that. So I recognize that sometimes it's just a very lucid or vivid dream. But I would have very vivid dreams that took place in that house. Often my grandfather would be there with me, and actually looking back at it now, because he's passed and he's been passed for quite a few years, kind of wonder if, you know, we were kind of hanging out that house. And anyway, so when I looked at what's left of my childhood home, and it kind of devastated me because I still felt very familiar with the house, even though it's been like 32, 34 years since I've lived there. And it made me think about the last time I had what I thought was a dream in that house. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it's the last one I had. I know that. I haven't had one since. I want to say it's probably been, I'm going to say it's probably been a year and a half, which is quite interesting when I tell you what I experienced in that, and that you see that that's what my childhood home looked like 2 years ago. So that image was captured 2 years ago by Google. I looked at it first on my mobile phone, and then I thought sometimes Google Maps is different on mobile from like a laptop. It's the same image. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see if there was something more recent. So the last time I had what I thought was a dream in that house, it started off in the basement. Now the basement seemed a little bit, it seemed like it had been updated. I would say that. It seemed like it had been updated, but it still followed the floor plan that I understood, if you could call it a floor plan, because it was an unfinished basement with a laundry. It looked like a dungeon. It literally looked like a dungeon. Like in those movies that you see, and people go down into the basements and there's a big scary furnace and there's like gray stone walls and this low roof like that. It was an old house, right? But it just like it's, and I remember going and thinking, this is what I always wanted to be when I was a kid. Like I'd always fantasized about having like a playroom downstairs or something like that, because it was a tiny house. Like there was a tiny living room, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom, and a tiny kitchen that we ate in. Like that was it. That was it. There was nothing more than that. The yard was like 10 times bigger than the house. So it started off in the basement, and I just, you know, I just kind of remember thinking, oh, this is what I wished it could have been like when I was a kid. Then I went upstairs and I got completely lost. I didn't know where I was. And it was, the best way I could describe it was I kind of felt like I was in like a modern townhouse. And it was weird. It was so weird. And I think after I woke up from that dream, I thought, God, what does that mean? Like I tried to see like what kind of meaning there could have been behind, like that my childhood home had always stayed the same for me in my mind as I thought were dreams. But this time, it wasn't, like it was completely different. What could that mean? And just thinking about myself moving and everything that I was going through, I thought maybe that, you know, it's symbolic somehow of that. And so, but now when I'm thinking about it, I think, have I been astral projecting to that house all this time? Because it would make sense that there's a new house there. I'm guessing that there's a new house there. And what's funny is I kind of forgot about that dream. The experience of remembering that dream and how it was triggered by looking at the photo reminded me of when I'm doing like a tarot reading. And I don't know if you've ever been in one of those readings where I'll pick up a message from a reading that I did like 2 or 3 years ago. Completely forgot about the reading and the details of it. Like if you ask me right now to pick out a reading, I'm like, I don't know. But when I'm channeling them, it's like that message will come in, and it almost happened the same way. Like, wait a second. There's something odd about that. Didn't we have a dream that the house was completely different? So it's kind of freaking me out because I'm thinking, I wonder if I've been going there and these people that think the house is haunted. Quite possible. It's funny. Yeah. So I thought I would post this because I haven't done any tarot readings. And such a strange thing that's just kind of happened for me. So here, I challenge you, if you're up to it, to Google Street View, the house that you grew up in. If it's not down the street from where you are now, or if it's not the house that you're in now. Kind of see how it looks now. And if you're like, oh, I was there a couple years ago. Be surprised, man. Because I'm telling you, I'm sure I looked like maybe 3 or 4 years ago and it was still there. I kind of wish I'd image captured it because now it's gone. So yeah, there's one thing you could do. And then, it's like if you want to, it's not really an assignment or anything. And then, yeah, any of your experiences with astral projection too. Because I'm going to share that. I guess we're kind of getting to the end of the video. That's, I think, all I needed to talk about with that was just like, wow. So, it's a bit of a drive for me to get down there. It's a good 40 minutes from where I live now, which, yeah, that's a long way. I'll wait for Google Maps to update it and see what it looks like if I don't lose my patience on it. Because it really does have me thinking about, like, being in that house. And it was like, this isn't the house. Like, it was weird. And that had never happened before in the dream. It was always the same. It was always the same. But little changes, like, but the wood, I think the most memorable thing for me was the wood. Like, it had oak floors, it had big oak doors, it had like big brass keyhole, like for big keys, like in all of the little door, like the bedroom doors, everything. It had the most beautiful wood. All of the windows had the big oak frames around them. Like, it was gorgeous that it was all there and never been painted over. And I just remember always like catching that in my dreams, like, because it was just this constant trim that you saw. But when I went upstairs, I did not know where I was. And if I recall, I felt like it had 2 stories, which was the other thing that felt like, this makes no sense at all. This is not, like, it felt like it had become one of those dreams where, you know, let's say you're going to work and all of a sudden you're at work. And then all of a sudden you walk down a hallway and you're at the zoo. Just like, you know how dreams can just do that sometimes? I thought, this dream is just so weird the way it's done that. But now I'm really wondering if I was there. I was really freaking there. So that's my story about my childhood dream. I'll talk about, yeah. If you guys have heard about these stories before, obviously, you know, you can click off. But if you're new, yeah. So the first memory I had was of that, seeing myself above the crib crying. And then I used to experience what were very weird, what I called, well, I didn't call them anything, to be honest, right? Like, when you're a kid and you're experiencing, I guess, what would be classified as supernatural things, you don't realize that other people aren't going through that, or, you know, what's going on. But I used to have what I would, I guess, as a kid, I would have classified as very realistic dreams, where I would dream that I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and it was in this house. And I don't know why, but that's why I have there's a lot of myself that grew and developed in that house. So I probably do have a very spiritual connection to it. Experienced quite sad moments in my life in that house, and quite happy moments as well. But I would dream that I was sitting in my room on the edge of the bed, and I was looking at the window, and it was a big window, and it had like a roll up blind. So the blind was rolled down, and it had like these shears, like white with pink frilly stuff. My mom decorated it. Yeah. She tried to make everything girly, because I really wasn't. And she, you know, she's kind of girly. I would sit on the bed, and I would just stare at the window, and I couldn't understand why it was so blurry. Just sit there. The dream was just that, sitting on the bed and looking at the window and trying to make it focus. And I could never do it, and it would repeat over and over and over again. And then I would wake up from the dream, and the weirdest thing about the dream to me was that I would wake up and the room would be exactly as I had just dreamt it. Like, the lighting and everything was exactly the same. So continue to have those. I'm going to say probably weekly. Like, that was a once a week thing. That was very frequent for me. And then this is the really weird thing, and this is the thing I still can't understand. So, well, it might have something to do with my mom, because my mom does see orbs. She doesn't see them like all the time and everywhere. I don't even know how often she's seen them. in her entire life, I'm guessing maybe half a dozen times, but they've been connected to the passing of a loved one or like something significant. Like my mom sees orbs and she picks up scents. Like she can smell my stepdad quite often. She'll be overwhelmed by his cologne, like, well, suddenly, and like even now, even though she's moved and like there's nothing of him in her new house, she'll wake up in the middle of the night and she knows he's there. She can smell him. Sounds bad, but he always smelled really good. So it might be that, maybe because she can see orbs, because I've never heard of anybody seeing somebody astral project, but my mom did. So she witnessed me doing it. So I'm going to tell you, that night I had very vivid dreams, and I want to say I was probably, I want to say somewhere between 12 and 14 years old. And actually leading up to that, so there's a backstory to this. I had a favorite, like a turquoise or teal colored shirt, and it was like a button-up collared shirt, and it was my favorite shirt. And I remember all week I would open up my drawer and it was wrinkled. And of course I should have like taken it to my mom and she probably would have ironed it out or something. But I was just like, I won't wear it, it's wrinkled. So I would just pick something else and wear it. Every day that week I did that. Looked at that shirt and really wanted to wear it and didn't. So now back to the dream. What I thought was a dream. So who knows what goes on in the ethereal, because I'll tell you, there was some crazy shit going on in my living room. So the dream took place in the house that I was living in at the time, which is that childhood home. And it was just me and my mom and our dog at that time. And the dog tended to sleep on my mom's bed, and my cat Pepper used to sleep on my bed, but she was probably out for the night. I think she was. And so I had a dream that I had walked out of my bedroom, and then I had walked into the living room, and there was a fair going on in the living room. I don't know how it fit. It was like a Ferris wheel. There was all this fun stuff going on in the living room. And then at some point that got kind of, I don't remember if it got tiring. No, I thought that my friend Sarah should come, my best friend at the time, that she should come and to the house and check out the fair. So in the dream, I walked into my mom's room. I sat on the edge of her bed, and she had, this is back in the, I guess the 80s, the mid 80s. She had, you know, this is when appliances were very multifunctional. She had a clock radio that was also a telephone. It was an alarm clock, a clock, and a telephone all in one. And I sat on the edge of her bed, and I picked up the phone, and I was talking to Sarah on the phone. I remember that dream. And then I don't remember anything. Like, I don't remember. It was like then the dream just ended at some point. Like, I don't remember any details after that, but I remember all of it. And I think the reason I also remember all of it is because that morning I recalled it all after what I was told by my mom, right? So I think that when you recall things, you talk about them and you remember them over and over again because they're attached to a very significant moment for you, you remember it. So then, you know, in the morning, it's early in the morning, I'm still laying in bed, and I can hear my mom kind of like, I don't think I ever like closed my door all the way at night, but it was, you know, a bit, and I could hear like the door. I could just sense her standing there, you know, like you can sense somebody standing there and staring at me. And I thought, I don't want to get up yet. I don't know what my mom, so I just like kept my eyes closed. And then I could tell that she went away. And I don't know how much longer time went by, but then she came back again. And I don't know if she did that 2 or 3 times. And then I think I do believe it was her that initiated the wake up, the communication. And she said, Cindy, are you up yet? Like, yes, I'm up. She said, I need to talk to you. I'm like, how did you need to talk to me? Like, I just saw you before I went to bed. And she said to me, the first thing she said, did you have any strange dreams last night? And I thought about it. I thought, yeah, I did actually. I did have a really strange dream. And I'm going to say now the detail, I don't remember if I told her my dream first or she told me what she saw. No, I think I told her the dream up to the point about the details about the telephone, because like what seemed more interesting to me was the fair going on in the living room. And then I think I told her, then I went to the phone and I called Sarah because, you know, like I didn't tell her where I went to the phone or anything because there was also a phone in the kitchen. And she said, well, okay, I don't know how to explain what I saw last night, but I got to tell you what happened. So now this is coming from my mom's perspective. So my mom is sleeping, and to give you an idea of the room placements, my room was in the back of the house. So my bedroom window faced the backyard, so it was much darker, and her bedroom window faced the street. So she still had the roll-up blind and the drapes and stuff, but there was still a bit of street light that could come in, but not a lot. And like I said, the dog was sleeping on her bed. So she was sleeping and her face was turned towards the window, which would have meant that her back was to the door in and out of her bedroom. So she was asleep, and then she said she just suddenly woke up, and she felt something. So she kind of opened her eyes, and she was again like looking in the direction of the window. And she said something didn't feel right. And I think it was the lighting, something was off. So she rolled over and she said, I was standing at the side of her bed. And she said, what was strange was I was just standing there and I was just staring at her side table with that telephone on it. I was just staring at it. And she said, but the weird thing was you weren't in your pajamas. You were in that teal colored shirt that you like so much, which was so weird. And then she said to me, so she said at first she thought, because I was also I'm a huge sleep, well, not so much anymore. I used to be a huge sleepwalker. I don't think I do anymore. I don't think I have for a long time, but a huge sleep talker. I keep it, he's like, I talk in my sleep a lot still. But I think it had probably already been a couple years since I had been sleepwalking. But I think that's what she initially figured was what she was seeing was I had been sleepwalking and just ended up standing at the side of her bed looking at the night table, just staring at that phone clock. And then she said she took a moment and she realized that I was lit up like she was looking at me in daylight. And then she thought, that doesn't make sense. And she realized that the light was actually like coming from me. There was no light source, right? Like lighting me up in her room. And then she suddenly felt like really scared. And then as soon as she said she felt really scared, I just and was gone. And then she was really scared. At that point, she sat there and she said she kind of looked around. The dog didn't stir. The dog was sleeping at the foot of the bed. He didn't stir through the whole thing. And I can't remember if she said she was worried that maybe I had passed in the night or something. Like she didn't understand what she had just seen. So I think she went to my room and I was breathing and sleeping. So she went back to her room and she just sat there and tried to understand what she had just seen. Because it didn't make sense to her, right, what she had just seen. And I can't remember, if she went back to sleep. I don't think she did. She's just, probably just laid there until morning. And then that's when she started looking in my room, wanted to talk to me. But it's really funny because I remember specifically that, what seemed so important about, recalling my dream to her was the fair that was going on in the living room. And then I went to the phone and, was calling Sarah to tell her about the fair. But then when she had said that, it made me think about, oh, no, I went in because her bedroom was beside the living room. I just went right in there. But the way I recalled it was I was sitting on the edge of her bed and I was using that phone. So at that point, that's when we started trying to figure out what was going on. And I think it was more commonly called out-of-body experiences back then, which, obviously really it is in a way. And trying to, there's no internet, right? So going to the library, talking to other people. And my parents had connected with a friend who knew someone that experienced those. And they were hoping that she would talk to me about it, right? Because it was such a profound experience. And everybody trying to figure out like what is going on. So, but she wouldn't. And actually, that's the thing that I think really, it's kind of funny. Somebody that I'd never met, but their reaction to what was going on for me really made me kind of like bottle up these kind of things about myself, because it kind of like it told me that, well, we don't talk about these things. People are going to think you're crazy if you talk about these things. And that was kind of implied, like it was just said, we never even got to talk to her. The friend just relayed the message that came back to them was she won't talk to anyone about it. And maybe, you know, people had made her feel very uncomfortable about the experience, and that was why she didn't want to do it. And I guess I just kind of felt like too, as a kid, like an adult won't talk to me about this. There must be something wrong with it. And then I continued to experience it throughout my lifetime. And there was, I think, another instance where, I remember who it was. Somebody had woken up in the night and their drapes were moving. And they could just sense me. It was a weird feeling for them. And I think the funny thing was, like, they had contacted me on the phone and actually asked me, did you have, like, people will say, did you have any weird dreams? And I said, yeah, I had a dream that I was in your room and it was really windy, right? Like, it was like, that's the other time somebody saw something that I was connected to of the out-of-body experience. So it's really weird, right? I think there needs to be more learned about out-of-body experiences, because I think A, it is possible to see someone doing that. And I think B, energetically, things can be moved in that state. But, so yeah, and then I got, there was a book, I think I have it in one of my boxes. I've kept it all these years. It's an old book at this point. It is called Out-of-Body Experiences. And it's a guy who wrote about all of it. And so what I told you at the very beginning about how I remembered sitting on the side of my bed when I was a kid and dreaming in the mornings about looking at the window was, the interesting thing that I learned in this book was, when you're having an out-of-body experience, is to not use your senses, not try to use your senses. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to see, because you don't have your senses. You just will it. Don't try. It just is, which was it's a fascinating state of being. And actually things got really clear in my out-of-body experiences for me at that point. Was not trying to do things. And, but then I did have a really scary experience once. And I think at the time I was in my early 20s. And, there's a lot of times too where I don't realize it's an out-of-body experience unless something significant happens. And something significant happened in this experience that made me realize it wasn't a dream. So I did have, and I'm trying to think, actually, more often than not, it seems to be the out-of-body experiences are connected to places that are very familiar and everything is in the right place. I think that's a Ferris wheel. Everything is, you know, like if you have a dream that you're at work and, you know, there aren't ships, unless you work in a shipyard, ships going through the office, like it's very normal. I think there's a good chance you're actually having an out-of-body experience or astral projecting there. But, so I had this, what I thought was a dream. I was standing in the living room of, the apartment that I was living in at the time. And I remember looking at like a table lamp on the table. I was in the living room and I was looking at a table lamp and it was kind of dark in the room. It was nighttime. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish I could see better. And the light came on. And I think at that point I thought, oh, wait a second. I don't think this is a dream. And I was about to like just go somewhere and all of a sudden something had me and like I couldn't see anything. I could just feel it. I was being held and I was being like against my will. I was being held against my will, and it felt really bad. Like I can't even describe what it felt like. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. I felt absolutely trapped. I felt in danger. That's the best way I would describe it. I felt trapped and in danger, and I couldn't move. I was screaming and yelling, and I couldn't escape it. At the time, I was living with a boyfriend, and I think I was yelling out his name, and I was screaming and screaming. And then at that instant, I remembered, you have control. And then I thought to myself where I wanted to be, and all of a sudden I was like in the bedroom, and I was just a few inches from the ceiling, and it was dark. And then I woke up. So it was interesting, right? It was like the minute I realized I could go anywhere I want to, then I did. And I escaped whatever was holding me. But it was really terrifying. I was really terrified for a while about that. It's never happened again. And I kind of think because maybe that was even just a lesson for me to realize the power that I do have in those situations. Yeah, that was scary. But nothing's ever grabbed me again. I don't think anything can, because I know now that I can go wherever I need to go, or free myself if I need to, at least in the 4D, 5D. Yeah, so that's one of the scarier moments of astral projecting. But I've had a few experiences too. A lot of them I find myself at the ceiling, and I kind of like, I can see, I don't know how you describe it. It's like the corner of your eye. In some ways it's weird, right? Like you're not in your body, but you're still utilizing yourself like you are a body. And I would see myself in bed, like out of the corner of my eye, and realize, and then find myself in bed. Now, actually, I have one more story to tell you. Well, I have two, because some of you may not have heard the one about the angel, but I had a really interesting experience with out of body when my son was probably, how old would he have been? I want to say maybe 2.5, 3 years old. He was at that age where he wasn't in a crib anymore, but he wouldn't stay in bed unless somebody laid there with him. So I would do that at night. Like I would lay down with him, and I used to fall asleep before him, to be honest. As a parent, you're laying down in bed at 8 o'clock at night. Trust me, you're out cold. And then sometimes I would just end up staying there, or I would go back to the master bedroom. But this is one of those nights where I'd ended up staying there. I just fallen asleep, and oh yes, I was having what I thought again was a dream. So some of you might have heard before that I had a business before, and it was a children's art studio. I won't get into the details about that because that's not the point of this, but I had a dream that I was there at the studio, and it had all these big windows, but it was, I was walking around at night, and again, like I should have picked up on it, right? But you're not even thinking, I'm just existing in these states. Because it made sense. If I was going to astral project there and I was doing it kind of at the time that I was sleeping, it would be dark and it would be nighttime. So I was doing that. All of a sudden, the lights came on and an alarm went off. And as soon as that happened, I found myself in my son's room, like at night, and I was just a few inches away from like the bed, and I saw him like moving and stirring, and he was probably like, you know, like kind of pressed up against me or something, like he's probably touching my body. And I honestly think that was like an alarm mechanism, like you need to get back now and be consciously aware in your body, because it was just weird. Like the lights came on in the studio, an alarm started going off, and then that was there right back next to my body, and I felt like an immediate urgency, like I need to be there now. So I just almost tried to force myself, as opposed to just relax and you're there. Like you don't have to do anything, you're there. I couldn't, it was weird. I kind of got in, but I couldn't move, and something didn't feel right. I don't know how to explain it. I don't even know how it works. And I kind of came out again. And then that's when I just said, just relax. As soon as I just relaxed, I felt myself slip in, and I've never felt that before, and I've never felt it since. And I think I got to witness the essence of it all because it felt like an emergency moment coming back. And because I couldn't get in right, or I don't know, I couldn't connect right with myself, that I became very present about just relaxing into it. And I had the profound experience to feel what your body feels to you. I would describe it as, you know, a tight fitting glove, leather glove, a tight fitting leather glove that it's thin. It's very thin, like a thin, high quality sheepskin leather. And you've worn it for years. And you know, if anyone else was to put their hand in it, it wouldn't fit. Their hand would be too small, their hand would be too big. They wouldn't have the webbing in their thumb in the right spot. Like it was so amazing to feel that, like almost to like feel myself fit into every nuance of my body, to own it. And it felt like that. Like it felt like this old leather glove that I had been wearing, like, I guess all my life. And I woke up and my son was, yeah, he was kind of like, you know, the time it took me to describe all that is not even how long it took. Like that entire experience, from the lights going on in the studio and the alarm going off, to me finally getting in there and then being like awake in my body and looking at him and, oh yeah, he's moving. I don't think it could have been more than a second. Like it was like so fast, but so much happens in that. And then I realized he's touching me and like bumping up against me, and it was almost like some sort of an alarm system, like you need to be back. And then I just sat there and I thought about what I had felt, being hyper aware of going into my body again, because I really never am, although there's the odd time I felt myself leaving and coming, but it's more like it's a vibration. You vibrate. I don't know if you've ever, for me it would happen laying on my back in bed, and it would just feel like everything is vibrating, and then I would just be out. And then other times where I would find myself floating up high at the ceiling and, you know, back, I would feel like the vibration and then awake and you don't feel it. So that was always something. It was almost like vibrating, coming in and out. So the last really profound experience that I had, this was, I don't know, this must be 5. Yeah, I want to say probably 5, maybe 6 years ago. I was laying in bed, and it usually happens like you're asleep for me, if I'm aware that it's going to happen, which doesn't, I think obviously it happens more often than I'm aware of. And I'm kind of awakened by that I'm vibrating, and then I'll know, oh, okay. And I popped out, and I was just kind of like, I would just say like kind of floating in the room. And all of a sudden something started drawing me up. I was out of the room, out of the house, and just going up. And for a minute I just kind of thought to myself, well, wait a second, I'm not doing this. But the best way to describe it is an invitation. Like it didn't feel like that bad experience before where I was being held against my will or anything was being done to me against my will. It just felt like an invitation. And it felt okay. And I thought, well, let's see where this goes. So I just kept going higher and higher and higher and higher. And I got to the point where I want to say I was kind of still in the Earth's atmosphere, but I was on the edge. I was really on the edge. And I was looking down for the longest time, but then if I looked straight ahead, it was dark. Like it was just black, like space, I guess. And when I had kind of reached the destination and I had looked up, there was, the only way I can describe it is an angel. Like he looked like an angel. And he was huge. His wings were huge. Like any drawing that I've seen doesn't do what I saw justice. They were just massive wings. And I mean, if they were, you know, how they would project above his shoulders, easily 2 or 3 feet above his head. And then below him, the bottom part of the wings, another 3 or 4 feet, like below him. The wings were huge. And he wore something that looked like, it was actually probably like this color, kind of a creamy or an off-white. And it was just like, it looked like linen. And it was a little bit tattered at the bottom. And things just like moved, like a little like sci-fi. It was weird. But the thing was, I knew I was having an out-of-body experience because I felt the vibration and then came out. So I knew this wasn't a dream. And I'm just like hovering in front of this angel. And I felt like he was trying to convey something to me. And I didn't understand what was going on. And I think the moment I just kind of like said, why? What? It was like I opened up to receive the answer. And the answer was a feeling. And I felt like the most incredible, like, love everywhere. I don't know how. It was almost like just like lifting a veil or lifting an illusion, lifting something and being able to feel what's really there. Like, you know, when they say the universe is love, like that's all I could feel. It was the most profound moment, this feeling that I was experienced through this answer of like, why, what? To show me this, but to tell me or show me was to allow me to feel like love, this love that just radiated everywhere. And I think I've described it, times that I've talked about it, is like, for me, how would I put this into words that could be understood by some? And for me, I would describe it as, you know, when I was like between 6 and 8 years old, where I'm pretty consciously aware of what's going on around me, but still pretty naive to the darkness of the world. And it would be like Christmas Day, because my grandparents would do some like really amazing stuff for us. We would go up there for Christmas, and my grandfather, he was a hunter, and if him or someone in the hunt group got a deer, he would make a point of getting like keeping the hoofs, and he would go out and he would make hoof marks, deer marks around the house Christmas Eve. So in the morning, like it was like magic, right? Like magic. And my grandmother would be up at 4 a.m. baking bread and pies, and then doing the turkey and the gifts, and you know, the dogs in the house. It was like a Dickens or not, oh my God, like a Rockwell, not a Dickens, like a Norman Rockwell Christmas kind of thing. And you know, when your parents are there, and you don't know anything about any of the complications of adultness or anything, and it's just this feeling like you are completely protected, you are completely loved, and everything beautiful is around you. Magic is everywhere. Anything you want could happen. Like that, like just like, wow. It was just like that feeling, but I felt it in me, through me, and all around me. And this is how profound it was. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go. And I was a mom. Like, I would do anything for my son. I would never leave him. But in that moment, there was nothing to go back to. Like, it was like, yeah. And then I was back. I was like, all of a sudden I was in the room, and then I went into my body, and I remember laying there longing to go back. So, oh my God, that is just the most incredible feeling. It's just like, why am I back? Why am I back here? And I don't know. I guess maybe to do tarot readings on YouTube. I don't know. But yeah, that's the most profound experience I ever had. Hey, Lily. Good girl. I love you. You're my good girl. You are. So that's all I got. I'm just going to share that. I haven't done any readings. I didn't do any today, so there's none coming out tomorrow. I'm hoping my son is better tomorrow. I probably could have done some today because he's taken some Advil to help with his fever, and he's okay for hours at a time. I check on him. Do you want some more water? Do you want something to eat? Which he hasn't been eating very much. But I was just too tired. I was too tired. So hopefully tomorrow I'll do some, which means probably some stuff will come out on Monday. So that's what we got, eh, Lily? We shared our stories. So yeah, I hope you guys are all keeping well. So go see what your childhood homes look like. They look like mine. Thanks, guys. Until next time, to be gentle with yourselves. Bye.